So here's an example of using the matching method to help you understand a foreign language. One of my students wrote in and she said, David, I don't hear the L before piloter in this little bit of sound. So let me show you the text. You have vous le pilotez toujours. And I'm going to show you how the matching method helps you learn to hear the L, because as the student wrote in, she doesn't hear the L. And we went over this same bit of sound in the webinars that I've done previously for students. So let's listen so that you can agree that really you don't hear it. And I'll teach you how to get to where you can hear it. Okay, so let's listen to the sound.
Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem? Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem? Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem?
Okay, so agree with me that you hear the vous and you hear the P in piloter. You hear piloter and you hear the vous right before. Let's listen again.
Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem? Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem? Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem?
Okay, so what you need to do is, because you have a transcript, well, first let's talk about if you did not have a transcript. You were out in a conversation talking to this person and listening, you would not hear the L, and you would be a little bit confused about what is going on in the sentence because there's no direct object. The sentence doesn't have any meaning without the L. And you would be confused. The same thing would happen if you were watching the news and you didn't have a transcript, or listening to the radio or watching a French movie and didn't have a transcript. You're missing some of the words, so the meaning doesn't make any sense. So because you don't have a transcript and because you're missing some of the words, you cannot go back and think about the context and think about what would have made sense and look for the word in your 2 or 3 seconds of memory of the sound that you have, because you never heard it. Because the reason is because your ears are not attuned to the way French is really spoken. So what you're doing with the transcript and with the matching method is you are looking at the transcript and trying to look for the word, listen for the words in the sound that you see on the transcript. So you have to have a little bit of faith and assume that if the person who did the transcript, which is the French people I have working for me who do these transcripts, if they wrote the word in the transcript, it's in the sound somehow. Either there's a hint of the word in the sound that you need to recognize. You need to recognize that hint of the sound, that hint of the word, or you need to recognize that little bit of the word that was spoken. So let me tell you how to listen for the L. This is what you would be doing if you were on your own. You have the transcript, you have the sound, you don't hear the words that are in the transcript. You listen again and you say, the L is not heard. I agree that I don't hear it, but there must be something or some part of the L in the sound, or something in the sound that indicates the L. Let's listen again, and I'll give you a hint for this time. It's at the end of the vous. The speaker doesn't say, let me let you listen again. Let's listen again. Tell me if you hear anything.
Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem? Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem? Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem?
Okay. What you may have heard, and we'll listen again in just a second, now that I'm going to tell you where it is, the speaker does not say vous pilotez toujours. She says vous le pilotez toujours. So what you hear is you hear the L at the end of the vous le pilotez toujours. Let's listen again, and you tell me, I'm going to play it perhaps 3 times. You tell me now if you can hear the L at the end of vous. If you hear vous le. Let's listen.
Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem? Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem? Vous le pilotez toujours ce taxi tandem?
Okay, so what you know now is that the L was not really spoken distinctly as a separate word. So in the transcript, it's a separate word. There's a little bit of space, a little white space before the L, and a little white space after the E. You see le distinctly as a separate word in the transcript. But in the spoken language, the speaker, the native speaker, speaking to a native listener, does not need to be that distinct in their and that precise in their speaking. So they're going to do what you might call the minimum understandable version of these words. And you, as a non-native speaker, in order for you to get to where you can understand everything, you need to learn to recognize the little versions of all these different words and learn to listen for them. And you do that by matching. What matching does is you take the transcript and it helps you learn to recognize the sounds or bits of words that the speakers are actually making. Now there is, as I mentioned many times, when you first start matching, you will feel that it doesn't work and that you will think that I'm crazy, or you maybe think this is for advanced speakers. No, it's for beginners. You should start doing this as a beginner, in my opinion. I do it as a beginner in German. The reason you want to do matching right away is you want to learn what the little bits of sound, little bits of words sound like. You want to learn to recognize them. And you also want to start right now and not in 2 years from now. You want to start adapting your ear to the spoken language, because there's two basic problems you have that keep you from understanding spoken French or any spoken language you're trying to learn. The two problems are the speaker speaking for other native listeners is going to pronounce just parts of the words, the minimum amount of the words that he needs to pronounce in order to be understood. And also your ear is not yet adapted as a fresh beginner, so you don't hear all of the sounds that he's actually making. So he's making maybe half of the sounds that you would expect, and you're not even hearing all of that 50% of the sound because your ear is not adapted yet to the language. So the reason for you to start doing the matching exercises, doing matching as a beginner, as a fresh beginner, the reason you should start working with real spoken French or the spoken language, whichever language you're trying to learn, is because you want to go ahead and start adapting your ear to the rhythms of the native language. So the problem people have, and the reason so few people discover this on their own without a teacher guiding them through this journey, is that when they first listen to a movie, for example, they want to learn Spanish, so they get a Spanish movie and they say, I wonder if I'll understand anything. They understand nothing, and they get the wrong idea. They say to themselves, well, maybe as a beginner or maybe as an intermediate, I'm not ready for the spoken language yet. And what I should do instead of listening to these movies or listening to these recordings is I should go and work more on my vocabulary and grammar, and then maybe I'll be ready for the spoken language in a couple of years. They think that maybe the reason I don't understand the spoken language now is because my vocabulary is not large enough, and I need to learn more words so that I'll finally learn the spoken language. But the problem is, and people discover this once they get to the country, is that even though you know the language and you have a wide vocabulary, if your ear is not tuned, you haven't tuned your ear, you won't recognize the words that you already know, because the French speaker is going to pronounce only certain parts of those words, and your ear is not tuned to the sounds he's making. So you're only hearing about 20% instead of 50% that a native listener would hear. So you need to start adapting your ear to the language as soon as you can. So what you do, now the other thing that you're going to mistakenly think is in your way is you're going to say, well, as a beginner, as an intermediate, I just can't understand anything, so I'm wasting my time here. What you should do is you should work in small steps, and small steps can be extremely beneficial to you. Just get a 5-minute recording. You can get it off the internet, or for the French, I have them free on my site, but get a small bit of recording and the transcript for that recording, and just work through paragraph by paragraph. When I'm working on my German, it'll take me to get through a 5-minute recording. It takes me about a month. I just work paragraph by paragraph, little bits, 15 to 20 seconds at a time I'm working on. So I'm just listening to a 15-second length of the recording, and trying to get to where I can hear about 80% of those words. Once I get to 80%, I move on to another paragraph or to the next 15 or 20 seconds of sound. The reason I only try to get up to 80% now as an intermediate or beginner is because my ear is going to adapt over time as my ear gets better at hearing the rhythms and the different sounds of the spoken language. So I'm not going to try to get to 100% today. That's almost impossible. And if you wait around to get to 100% comprehension of all the words, then you're probably going to get bored with the subject matter and you're probably going to give up and stop. So what I do is I give myself a goal of 80% and I move on. That way I'm moving through new recordings and moving through new subjects, and I stay interested. I also spoke about, you keep hearing me talk about a transcript. The reason that you should not waste your time on doing listening exercises without a transcript is because you can't do the matching. As a intermediate or beginner, even for many advanced students, you're simply not going to hear all of the sound, all of the words that were spoken. And if you don't have a transcript, you have no guess that there was a extra word in there that you missed. So you have to have a transcript to see the words that you missed. If you're going to improve your listening comprehension, you can either move to the country and spend years, or you can spend just a year or 18 months matching. It's matching and doing this exercise of matching that is going to quickly improve your comprehension of the spoken language. But in order to match, you have to have a transcript, because we see this in the webinars that I do. There are words in the sound that if you don't have a transcript and you're not already fluent, you would just never guess that word was there. You're never going to hear that word. There's some of these words you have 0% chance of hearing on your own. You have to have a transcript to realize that word was there in the sound, and then you replay the sound listening for that word, or replay the sound listening for that bit of word, or replay the sound listening if that word might be not be pronounced on its own, but might be hinted at by a change in the word just before it or just after it, like the vous, le. The le is not pronounced as a separate word. It actually is hinted at by a modification of the vous. So we hear voul, voul. And that's how we hear as listeners, as native listeners, we hear the le because she said voul. Okay, the video cut because I rattled on so long that my camera stopped. So sorry about that. What you need to do, what I would suggest that you do, is if you want to know more about sound matching, you need to know that when you first try it on your own, it won't feel as if it's working. You'll say, there's no way this is possible. So what I have done is, after working with a lot of students on the phone and a lot of students by webinar, many students by webinar, I have created a video series that you can get when you sign up for the email newsletter at listeningdiscovery.com. So it's like a course, videos that you watch, and then exercises that take you through it bit by bit, so you can really get a hang of this matching exercise. And the people who have taken it, the beginners and intermediate speakers and even advanced speakers, people already living here in France, those who have taken it really, really like it. They finally see a way forward for understanding spoken French, because this is the understanding seems to be the thing that is the final problem in fluency. If you're working with fluency right now and you feel that you're almost fluent but you're not there, what you're probably feeling is that you can't come up with your words as you'd like to. When you're speaking French with someone, you can kind of understand and follow the conversation, but you can't come up with your words. And the other thing is that you cannot understand movies and radio and stuff like this. And you think that that's further on, that the understanding will come eventually. But what's going on actually is it's because of your understanding that the words are not coming as quickly as they should. as your understanding grows, as your comprehension gets better and better, you will have learned all these sound patterns, all these ideas. You will have brought them into your brain so that when you need to speak, they just come out. But the comprehension is the thing that drives the people living in France crazy, because English speakers already living in France, they tell me after 5 or 10 years, sometimes they say, I still can't understand my neighbors. They can understand me, and I can understand if they speak slowly, but I don't feel comfortable in group conversations when people are speaking quickly. It's your comprehension. And this matching exercise is a great tool, and I'll help you work on it. So even if you're working on a different language, if you want to try my matching with the French, at least you'll understand how it works. So then you can go and work on your own language. And I even have a video in the series of videos, like on the 3rd day of videos, that helps you, that tells you how to produce your own listening materials for any other language so that you can do your matching. It's the technique I use for German. All right, so that's it. Please think about the video series at listeningdiscovery.com, or let me know if you have a question. You can just send me an email or put a comment under the video. Thanks.